It is said that marriages are made in heaven, but truly, marriages are made on earth. What is this? What am I talking about when the session is on resume analysis? There's a lot of comparison that we can do. So if you look at marriages, if somebody has to get married to another person, say A has to get married to B, then A has to sort of analyze the qualities of B and then take an informed decision. Of course, other than the love at first sight, there still is a need to analyze, to understand other person, and then take an informed decision as to yes, probably this person is right for me. So similarly, resume analysis follows the same pattern where you as a recruiter have to understand the resume, have to analyze the resume, not just read it out, and then decide as to whether this candidate would fit a particular requirement or other requirements or not. So this is what we're going to see in this entire section: the why, what, and how of resume analysis. So what would you learn on resume analysis by watching these videos and listening to what I'm telling? So instead of just being able to read and then find keywords, you'll be able to go much beyond that. The first is, what is the purpose of resume analysis? Why do you have to do it? As I've been repeating, it is more than just keyword search. A resume has different sections. So what do you look for in these different sections? What do each sections mean to you from a recruitment perspective? There are certain things or certain information that is mentioned in the resume. What are those? These are very clear. At the same time, there is certain information which is not very implicit in the resume. So how do you actually find out those? And then once you have both the visible and invisible information, you have to complete the information gathering. You have to sort of document them. So, this is what my findings. Yeah, it's like a CBI chart sheet. Okay, so they go and find as to what has this person done wrong. Of course, here you're not looking at what the person has done wrong, but then what the person has done right. And then you have to document your analysis. So what is the need for documentation, and who's going to look at this documentation? Your manager? Obviously not. So there's a need for documentation. Your peers will look at it, and then there are other categories of people who look at it. So we will look at each of these objectives in more detail as we go along. Before you even look at a resume, you have to know why you are analyzing the resume. Why have you been given the resume? So it's the purpose of your analysis. So once you have the resume, the different sections in the resume, you need to know as to what they represent and what you need to look for and what not to look for. Each of the sections you have to do an analysis. Some of them may be technical, some of them may be non-technical. And believe me, all the information is not hard-coded in the resume, as IT professionals say. So while you're analyzing the resumes, analyzing the different sections, you will find that, okay, these things I probably need to find out. So how do I do that? So you just note down these questions and then you prepare for the call with the candidate. Then you make a call with the candidate, get the required information. Probably you may get all the information. Some information you may have to infer. And then finally, you document all your findings from whatever analysis you have done of the resume, and then from the call that I made to the candidate. So all these you put together and say, hey, this is what I could infer from the resume. Let us now understand the purpose of resume analysis. Why do you need to do a resume analysis before you actually say yes, this matches or doesn't match a requirement, or before you present it to the hiring manager, or before you go to the interview panel for the next level of interviews? Let us understand the learning objectives of this session. So we look at the learning objectives from a candidate point of view, from a hiring manager point of view, and the organization point of view. So why does the candidate want you to understand the profile better? What benefits does he or she have? What does the hiring manager want from you? And if you analyze a profile thoroughly, then how will it benefit you and the organization? So this is what we will look at. Ask yourself some questions as to why you want to do a resume analysis. So do you do a resume analysis, find faults in the resume? Oh, this person has not done development, or this person has worked in a very small company, so I cannot process the resume. Or do you want to find some positive aspects in the resume so that you can possibly help the candidate? Is it to match the resume to a JD? Your manager has given you a JD, so let me take 10 profiles and see which resume matches to the JD. Or do you want to find a JD for which the resume could possibly match? Which is better? Which is more beneficial to the organization? Think. Is it to find gaps in the resume and reject them? Oh, this person has taken a break from work for 3 years, so I will not process the resume. So I don't know what he or she has done in 3 years, so let me reject it. Or you know that okay, now there's a gap in the resume, so let me talk to the candidate and analyze as to why this gap is there. So there may be genuine reasons for these. Looking at the hiring manager point of view, hiring manager is looking for quality resumes. So do you want to just send resumes immediately as you search for some keywords and then send it? Or do you want to send quality resumes to the hiring manager so that if you send X number of resumes, you are sure that 90% of it will be selected? So what do you want to do? So if you look at the questions and the responses in greens are the ones which are going to benefit you, your organization, the candidate, and the hiring manager. So you analyze a resume to find the positive aspects in a resume, to find a JD for which there will be a possible match to the resume. Find gaps and analyze the reasons for the gaps. And last but not the least, send quality resumes to the hiring manager. Let us continue our discussion on the purpose of the resume analysis. As we keep mentioning, resume analysis is not just about finding some keywords and then matching to a JD. It is helping the candidate and the hiring manager. So you help a candidate in getting placed in an organization. 2 years down the line, the candidate wants to look at another job. So if you've done your job well in terms of analyzing the resume and then getting the right job for the candidate will actually come back to you and say, hey, can you find me another job? So it is helping the candidate throughout the career. And the hiring manager, well, hiring managers today spend a lot of time in interviewing candidates and rejecting most of them. So if you can reduce the rejection levels by giving them your assessed
well assessed candidates, it's going to help them a lot. So from a candidate point of view, you are the talent management consultant. You're not just yet another recruiter.
So let's summarize the purpose of resume analysis. So the purpose is to find out what the candidate has worked on. This is in terms of the experience. Then what are some of the personal traits of the candidate, like communication skills, and then how well does this person respond to a question, all of those. Find out what roles and responsibilities will the candidate be able to fit into. This is not just based on what has been given in the resume, but more on based on your analysis. And then find a JD for which there could be a possible match. So this what is a summary of the purpose of analysis. So as we go along, we will look at each section of the resume and then see as to what information you can get from these resumes so that your analysis is complete to as much extent as possible. So again, reiterating the fact, find out the employable attributes that the candidate has, irrespective of the available JD. Please note, today you may have a JD, but then 4 months down the line, you may have a JD, but then you may not have a candidate. But then the candidate whom you spoke to today may fit that JD. So why not have a broader perspective? And also, if you have to prepare the candidate for interviews or for some job openings, what are the areas where the candidate can actually scale up? So some hiring managers or some organizations are willing to train people. So if the person is good in X, then why not push the person? So remember that every profile is valuable. Every profile. And sometime or the other, you'll be able to find some opening for this person. So do this analysis with an open mind and then see the results.
So in the next section, we will see the different sections in a resume and what information we can get from them, which is going to help the candidate and the hiring manager.